by the way, it's like one of these things you're always annoyed when you're CEO and people like write an article. But quite frankly, we wouldn't be where we are except for these articles, because people make no effort to compete with us. You know why? Because they don't understand how well we're doing. And that's really cool. Thank you. Please thank all the people. Every time someone writes something like that, they are making us better. And not for because we're, it's not the Nietzschean thing, anything that doesn't kill me makes sense, because, people really look at Palantir and they don't understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I'll tell you.
Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I found a video from 2018, which is an interview with Alex Karp, where he explains in quite a lot of detail what Palantir Foundry does, how companies use it, and their whole philosophy around this program. And I think if you're a Palantir investor, it's very, very important to know this data, because as you just saw from Mr. Daddy Karp himself, people don't understand what Palantir does and how well that they're doing. And this is how you can get the stock price to go from $40 to $6, where the price is just insanely stupid, in my opinion. So this is very cool stuff for you if you're a Palantir nerd and an investor. And if you like this channel, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you want to go one step further, you can check out the first link in the description, which takes us to our Patreon page, where you can support the channel from $5 a month and get access to all the valuations that we do and get in contact with me and lots of other cool stuff. So check it out. Let's get into the video.
We spent years and years trying to develop a commercial product, and successfully built one recently, which largely allows people to integrate industrial data. It's very specialized for industrial use cases. Also allows you to do data protection, but the power of it comes from the ability to scale across an enterprise and make workers more valuable.
And so let me ask you, stop there. When we talk about the commercial side, a corporate client, give me Chrysler, for example. I know is a client. Give me an example of how Chrysler's using Palantir's technology right now.
So you have a problem when you're building any kind of motor or doing any kind of drilling. So we're well known in the industrial drilling context, in the flight context, in the automotive context, although we don't talk about that much publicly. But you have essentially a massive amount of data, but it's very hard to figure out or predict which part is likely to break under which conditions in a motor. And knowing that is the difference between making a lot of money, or much more money than your competitors, or much less money than your competitors, because the parts have different costs. So one part, of a typical case in a plane or in a car, would be one part costs 2 cents, one part costs $1,000. If you can predict that replacing the part that costs 2 cents every 2 months instead of 5 months saves you the $1,000, you have a massive market advantage and a safety advantage.
I had to watch this a few times for these numbers to really, really sink in. I really also advise you to maybe go back and watch it again, but it's insane. So if it's true what he's saying, and probably it is true, then companies in the sectors that they're good at, he names airplanes, auto manufacturing, cannot afford not to use them, because the computer AI can help you notice things like if you change one part more often that costs 2 cents, then you can use another part that costs $1,000 for way longer, and thereby you achieve massive profits and increase safety. So it's like a win-win from every angle. It's amazing.
But these things actually have to be done on the line as well. So you need a product that interfaces with everyone in the company, the CEO, the managers, but also the auto workers, that has an engine that can power that, and then a front end that they can work with intuitively. And the thing that's very special here that actually we're very much driving is, I believe Silicon Valley is creating innovation without jobs, and it's really hurting our world. And what's very special about Foundry is that it creates innovation with jobs. So the factory worker, there's 1,500 people at Chrysler using our product. 1,500 people who are technical, but they're not PhDs in computer science or math. At Airbus, we have 5,000 workers using our product. Now, maybe I'm just going back to my old philosophical days, but what's made this company special is not that we're secretive. It's not that we're an enterprise software. It's that we've been very focused on fighting terrorism with data protection. And what we're recently now very focused on as well is innovation with jobs. Now, why should we care? Well, because if you don't have jobs, you're not going to have democracy. And I think, obviously we were born in Silicon Valley and we're of Silicon Valley in some ways, but this movement towards innovation with no jobs is really hurting our society. And it's bad for companies, it's bad for our country, it's bad for our partners. And what's made our product successful is when we find a convergence between philosophical, moral, and technical things, and we bring it together. And that's actually been the secret of PG, or our government product. It wasn't about making money. Sure, we're a business. We like making money. It was about how can we make sure the special operator comes home with legs. And that really is motivating. And so, like on the commercial side, really finding something where workers can use the product. And once the worker starts using the product, they're like really valuable. Because the worker on the front line can begin to do something that heretofore that no worker could do. Actually, a computer alone can't do it, because the computer, it's a factorial problem. Computers are not capable of actually doing this yet.
So I love what he says here. I love investing into, companies where I really feel that the companies are doing something awesome for society, and I really, agree with their morals. And just as I would love to invest in Tesla for the same reason, because they're helping with the green revolution and I really like what they represent. I really understand that many of the Silicon Valley companies are about, how you can simplify things and, digitize them, and thereby completely cutting out jobs. And Palantir is more into how can you make the existing workers more effective so that, they add more value to the company, and thereby they don't need to be fired. And maybe this is not very well explained here. I even did another video about this where they, demo the product. But basically, to give you an example, if you plug in all the data to the system and it says that, if you do this maintenance on this 2-cent part, then, this $1,000 part doesn't need to be changed for, like 2 years longer, the computer is not able to change it, right? So obviously the worker who knows how to put in this data into the system and then knows how to read it and then change these parts, they become way more valuable for the company. And the computers, they're not able to make decisions, right? So it's really like a win-win. And I really love this.
Will be in 10 years. But by then the worker will be so good that maybe they're irreplaceable. So
your point, Alex, is that Silicon Valley tech companies should be doing more to promote job creation, and Palantir software is helping that effort?
Well, I mean, you're being diplomatic. I think they should do more to stop destroying jobs. And we're doing innovation with jobs. So if it was just neutral, like, the cost of a house here is $3 million. The cost of a house in Detroit is $40,000. It's like, why is that? Because Silicon Valley is eating up, the west coast of America is eating up every job on the planet. And that's a problem for our society. Now, maybe other companies don't want to be involved in that. That's their choice. Just like many companies don't want to be involved in stopping terrorists. That's their choice. Or protecting data. That's their choice. Our choice as a company is that we want to be involved in this, and we are driving really, really hard on this. And by the way, to your viewers, what's been very interesting is a famous saying in the Valley: ask for money, get advice; ask for advice, get money. The more we focused on these deep philosophical issues, the more we've crushed it as a business.
So very important sentence that he said here. The more we focused on giving a product that is philosophically and morally correct, the more we crushed it as a business. And I'm a very big believer of, letting great people do what has worked and, do more of it. And I know so many people who are upset and are upset with Alex Karp that he talks about philosophy and why he focuses so much on that. But we can clearly see that it is part of their DNA and it is part of what has made them successful. For example, countries can rely on them and know that they're not going to take their data, they're not going to spy on them, and they have data privacy protection, and they're not going to change their minds because there is an uprising or AOC suddenly tweets about them. And so that makes them a really, really reliable, partner. And I'm a big believer in doing what has worked and letting great people, doing the work the way that they think it should be done. And this is why Alex Karp does what he does. And this is our Palantir. You gotta love it or hate it as it is.
The idea is that Palantir software is creating jobs at a Chrysler plant.
It's preserving jobs, because once the 1,500 employees are using the software, they're actually doing things that otherwise you'd need a PhD to do. And so you're making them as valuable as the PhD in software. And it scales across the enterprise. So they're more valuable than a single PhD in software, because what they figure out then scales across the enterprise. Once they figure out, okay, well, this part and this part interact in a weird way. If we change that, then everyone in the whole, and in fact, you see this at Airbus as well, where you have these 5,000 people and a myriad of airlines hitting this data stack, which allows them to lower costs and, quite frankly, obviously more important to most of us, increase safety.
And do you think, Alex, as CEO of a company, is your responsibility then to also directly hire more people at Palantir?
Well, we do that, but our primary responsibility is to let people keep the jobs that they already have. Again, like I'm not saying that Palantir can change everyone who's not a software engineer to a software engineer. What I am saying is if you have a part of the company eating up the whole economy of every other part of the world, including America, including industrial things, and what is the promise to the person on the factory line? Like, why should they believe in what they're doing? And that can be changed, and we are changing it. Now, I also realize most Silicon Valley companies don't care, and nor do they have a corporate responsibility to care. But the interesting thing about Palantir is we only win big where we start from a moral thing. That's what actually motivates us, and that's what allows us to go deep enough on the tech thing to be disruptive.
And let me ask you this, Alex, to turn back to your business. There's been a lot of reports, I want to get your take on this, about customer churn at Palantir, right?
Remember, this is more than 4 years ago. We're going to come back to this.
So there's reports of Coca-Cola, American Express,
what's very interesting.
That they ended those contracts on pricing concerns.
Now, what's very interesting about our company is that once we moved everything on the Foundry platform and focused on industrials, and the central thing is we have to focus on moral things that we care about. And so when you look at our business, the part of our business where we did this has grown 100% year on year for like 3 or 4 years. So, and part of getting these things right in the beginning when you're building a product, just like in the US government, took us years and years and years of experimenting with massive data sets. Quite frankly, I'm quite grateful to all the companies we got to experiment with. That's how we built Foundry. And now we have this massive product. It's quite interesting and it's quite important. And the churn numbers on our government product are de minimis, meaning if you take out the ones where it was like some reason we wanted to leave from Norway, it's almost non-existent. But it happens in any big business. We're a large business. So, and some of that might be our fault. But what's interesting about the Foundry product is we're starting to see that same kind of thing, very sticky and very focused on industrial things and very focused on job creation, and then the workers and the corporate people become our allies.
So this was 4.5 years ago, and as you have seen probably my earlier Palantir videos, the proof is in the pudding with Palantir, because you don't have a car like Tesla that you can see, and you don't have a phone like with Apple that you can try. Palantir basically gives a value proposition. They're a very expensive software, and if you pay them $10 million and they make you $50 to $100 million, because that's what they have to make for the company to risk that money and get a return on the investment, then they keep them and then they keep ordering more, then they survive as a company, right? So if you see in their bookkeeping that the customers are staying and they're buying more, by this logic, it has to mean that the companies who are making these purchases are getting a much bigger return on their money, which proves out the business model of Palantir. And this is what you can see if you are the type of guy who wants to see your investment and understand it. And let's see what has changed in 4.5 years later. The US commercial revenue is still growing at 136% and accelerating 5th quarter in a row. Commercial revenue 54% year over year. I believe at this time they were mainly US focused. I might be wrong on this, so this is why I think that the US number is more relevant. It's incredible that he quoted that they were already growing at a 100% pace for 2-3 years. And this is 4 years later, and they're still rapidly growing. So obviously this in itself is a fantastic proof of concept and how valuable their product is. And I love this explanation of the Foundry product. I love the whole philosophy that is behind it. And I love the fact that people don't understand what Palantir does. And, they talk shit about it and the media misreports it, and it allows the stock price to go down to ridiculous levels and give us investors who, follow this and are able to understand and able to see things for what it is, a fantastic buying opportunity, in my opinion. Everything here is my opinion. So I thought it was important for you to see this. Please let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video.